Hey, welcome to After the Whistle. I'm Mike Pereira, the head of officiating in the USFL. Each week, we're going to recap some of the exciting plays, some of the controversial plays, and we'll look at videos from these plays. Week 6 was exciting. I mean, there were some incredible catches, close calls, close games, big hits. And I think what's really cool about this show is that we're able to interview coaches and we're able to interview players. And we're actually able to interview officials. And today, we're joined by one of our USFL referees, James Carter, who is a referee in the SEC and now with us and had 2 games this past weekend. James, I mean, what's it like? What's it like officiating in the USFL, and how is it different than the SEC other than about 100,000 fans per game?
Well, so far it's been a great experience, getting an opportunity to officiate players who have been at the highest level, as well as deal with coaches and the interaction there. Like you say, the big difference is probably just the crowd. Enthusiasm is definitely the same. And learning the rules or new rules is also something that's a little different. But so far, the experience has been great.
Well, let me comment on that. I mean, I look at this as a training ground, and I watch for officials to improve. And I think we all have areas to improve. And I think you've improved, although I think you were a good official before you came in the USFL, that's for sure. But to me, it's indicated by the fact, too, your improvement and your crews. I look at the performance of overall crews. I was 2/3 of a way, just so you know, through a memo that's going out today on Tuesday, actually, inviting you and your crew to work in the playoffs.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, you guys have done a terrific job. And when we met and talked about which crews that we wanted in the playoffs, your entire crew, without any substitutions, will be working in the semifinal rounds in Canton, Ohio, in the playoff semifinals weekend. All right, now if you can still further concentrate after that.
Yeah, I'm lost now.
Let's look at a couple of plays. I think the most fascinating play was the blocked field goal that was recovered by the defense, and then the defense returned it, and then they fumbled, and then the original offense, which was the field goal kicking team, recovered the fumble. So in my mind, as I sit in the replay center, hey, I'm in a controlled environment. I'm sitting in a room, and this is like I'm going, okay, this is not a try. This is a field goal attempt. So we essentially have a scrimmage kick. And I'm thinking, okay, it's a double change of possession. Okay, now what are we going to do with the double change of possession? What are we going to do with the clock? All of this stuff in a controlled environment. I mean, it was not easy, but it was not that confusing. But what you got? That's your play, and it's blocked, and it's coming back towards you. What went through your mind as that whole play was transpiring?
Well, we had a relatively long drive there, and then we get down near the end zone. And most of the time when you have crazy situations, it's going to be on kick plays. And when the kick was blocked, immediately it's like, you have to transition in your mind to a different place. You've had the offense driving, and now the kick is blocked, and then the defense picks it up and starts to return it. Now you have to pivot towards the offense has been leaning on the defense the whole time. Now the defense wants retribution. So you have to watch low blocks, you have to watch blind side, because now they want to take an opportunity to get their shots in. Then also just making sure that you get back so that you can see what happens. They do get close to scoring, get back and see what happens with the goal line. But at the same time, watching blocks in the players, because it's a quick transition. So it's like herding cats almost.
Yeah, it's amazing that everything that goes through that. And of course, like you say, it's you don't necessarily anticipate it, but you got to be aware of it. I mean, and the most unique thing about that whole thing to me, James, and maybe you felt it on the field, but that's the first time I can remember where we went through a 15-minute quarter and one team never snapped the ball, never had an offensive snap. I mean, New Jersey had all the offensive snaps. I mean, they had an 18-play drive before the blocked field goal, then they got it back, and then they kept it another long drive and all the way till the end of the quarter. So it was the number of plays were a little disappropriated because you had like 24-0 at the end of the quarter, and it turned out obviously to be an exciting game. I mean, incredibly exciting game, which poor Houston kind of gets the loss right at the very end again. Hey, let's move on now and talk about a horse collar tackle in your game. Wasn't called, and after reviewing it, I think it probably should have been. 6:17 to go in the first quarter, run around the right, a little bit downfield from you, so you don't get the best of look. But when you think about player safety, I mean, you know, I don't really want fouls called unless they have a definite impact on the play. But when it comes to player safety, I do want those calls. What were your thoughts on that horse collar penalty not being called?
I didn't see the play initially, but once I did see it, I felt like it was enough for a horse collar. I think most of the time what we're looking for is that immediate jerk backwards. Now, he was jerked a little bit forward and sideways, but his action was immediate, and he did fall awkwardly. So I do feel like horse collar would have been supported there. We should have had that.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I mean, it wasn't the most egregious one, but when you looked at the bodies and how the bodies ended up going, and the fact that there was a hand inside, and you know, horse collars are difficult because you don't have to necessarily bring them to the ground, but the knees have to buckle. It's a common rule that you have in college also, and I think it's pretty much exactly the same. Is it the same in college where nameplate from the back, nameplate, if they grab the nameplate and pull them down, it's a foul, or do you have to be inside the collar in college?
Yes, either the back or the side.
Either the back or the side, yeah.
And he was, and I looking at the play, he definitely was on the inside collar in an area that we're talking about. So I feel like it would have been supported, and we probably should have gotten that one.
A play that you weren't involved in, but probably is getting most of the discussion, is a fight that we had in the Pittsburgh New Orleans game. And I'm going to call it a fight because it turned out to be a fight. But it's kind of one of those where while you weren't refereeing, that was the one that could have been somewhat confusing because it was not a change of possession play. It was not a kick. And what we ended up with were 3 fouls on the play. We had the offense that snapped the ball with 12 people on the field. So you essentially had an illegal substitution. And then after the play, you had what turned out to be a fight, which people on social media have described as the National Hockey League entering into the United States Football League. And no players were ejected. You look at the play, I know. First of all, do you feel that there should have been an ejection?
I feel that an ejection was warranted. You want the guys to have opportunity to play, but at the same time, you have to maintain control of the game. And with some of the actions that I saw, I feel like an ejection would have helped to, maintain the stability of the game, so to speak. But also, you just can't have certain things in the game. So I felt like it would have been warranted.
Yeah, I agree. And I could have stepped up and made that decision. I'm kind of to tell you the truth, I'm kind of anti-ejection because you play with a smaller roster side. And so I am concerned a little bit about competitive advantage or disadvantage. But when I looked at it again, I look at the punches that were thrown by the player that didn't instigate it, by the way. It was instigated by the offensive player, not the defensive player. But taking that into consideration, I actually sat there, and I know you can appreciate this. we have a 515 rule. So a 515 means that if you have a simple 5, of which an illegal substitution is, nothing is tied to it, no loss of down, no automatic first down. If you have that, and then the other team has a major penalty, a 15-yard penalty, then it's that unique rule that you would decline the illegal substitution that was up front and then penalize the personal foul. Well, I'm thinking, okay, we had a simple 5. Then we also had personal fouls. I'm thinking, is there any way this could be a 515? And I think I lost a little bit of perspective of just the actual fighting element of the play. So, you know, kind of like you, I'll be perfectly candid. I mean, kind of like you, being this your first year in the USFL, it's my first year in the USFL also. And I've not been a replay official. And so all of a sudden I'm in our replay center in Los Angeles, and you're yelling at me, Mayday, 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 calling me Mayday, which is my nickname. And it has proven to be a little bit more difficult than I thought. And, you know, so I learned from that. But if you, Michelle Nelson, who's one that covered it and called the foul, I would have supported her initial thought about disqualification. But we live and learn. But you don't want people to write that it's the National Hockey League. That's not. You don't
want that, and then also you don't want the guys to see that, okay, well, we did this and nothing was done, so maybe we can do it again. And
that's so true. Hey, James, I really appreciate you taking the time to join me on this show. It's just been a pleasure for me to, not that I haven't been associated with you before, because I have, but it's a pleasure for me to get to work with you in the USFL, and all of a sudden watching you. Hey, maybe you'll have the Alabama-Texas A&M game, huh? Wouldn't that be a dandy to have? Yeah, look at that. I saw that. I saw that look. That's going to be one where you guys all open up your assignments in the SEC and go, But it's been great having you with me. And for those of you that have watching in now, this is the yet another edition of After the Whistle. We'll be with you again next week, and we'll have a surprise guest that will join us again, and who knows who it could be. But I know we appreciate James Carter, and we look forward to watching you and your crew work in the playoffs. I'll be sending them a note in just a short amount of time. Have a good one.
Thank you for the opportunity, and always learning, always growing, and you're a big part of that. So I appreciate it.
You got it.